Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Mary McDermott, and she has a fascinating near-death experience. And I'm so sorry that it came at such a horrible situation for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
So feel free to start where you like and take as long as you like.
Okay, it was Christmas Eve day, a Saturday on the East Coast of New Jersey, freezing cold, gray day. My mother didn't want me in the house. She said, come back 5 o'clock, just leave, get out. This was not unusual, but on Christmas Eve I just thought it would be nice if I could have stayed home. She didn't
Hmm.
want me in the house, and I had nowhere to go. Everybody was with their families.
How
So
old were you?
I was 28.
Okay.
And I was dating this surfer who lived in the same town. So I said, fine. I said, I'll go to his house and I'll kill some time and I'll come back. Well, I got to his house. It was a big open surfer house. It was a little bit run down. You could see the ocean, hear the ocean. Open door, 10 bedrooms, free for all, surfboards, wetsuits, fins, outdoor shower. It was just like a community place where all the surfers hung out. I surfed. I was one of the first female lifeguards on the Jersey Shore, body surfing. So I fit right in with the whole crew. He became my boyfriend, and I ended up there, and he wasn't home. He was with his family. But there was one guy at the kitchen table. And I had asked John about him. I said, he's kind of new to me. I said, who is he? He had blonde hair, blue eyes, like the surfer look, but he was kind of a bigger guy, like a football player type. He sort of didn't fit in. Something wasn't quite right. John said, hey, he was out of the area. He came back. We know him. No, don't worry about him. He all surfed. We all surfed. I said, okay, fine, new face. He was there. And I said to him, I said, I have to kill the day. I said, I'm going to leave, take a drive to South Jersey, get out, stretch my legs, and come home. And he said, well, would you mind if I went along? I don't have anything to do either. So I said, fine. I said, no, not a big deal. I'll be down and back. End of story. So we drove down, beautiful, pristine area along the New Jersey coast. It was empty, it was deserted, it was cold, winter seagulls, the ocean, beautiful. And we drove all the way to Cape May, and we got out to stretch our legs. And that's when I noticed I was low on gas. So I said, look, before we head home, I have to get some gas. We pulled into a gas station, and the man was just turning off the light. I ran over and I said, here's $10. I said, can we just get gas? I said, I'm so sorry. I know you want to get home to your family. Fill it up. I said, we'll be out of your hair. Cash, done. So I said to them both, I said, I'm going to run to the ladies' room. And when I come back, we'll head out. While I was in the ladies' room, the station manager left, and Tom had jumped into the driver's seat. And when I got to the car, I said, Tom, you're not allowed to be driving. He had exhibited some unusual behaviors on the way down. And I said to myself, when I get back, I really don't want any contact with him further. Just unusual laughing and looking out the window.
Because I
And
think he said he didn't have a driver's license, right? Or maybe.
that is correct. So he said to me, get in or I'm going to leave you here. So I looked at the payphone and I said, wow, I said, I'd really like to call home. My instincts were telling me, don't get in the car, call home. But that was so unrealistic. I said, there's nobody that could come get me or would come get me. So I got in and I said to myself, we'll just get right on the parkway. I could see it. And so we'll head home and that'll be the end of it. But he ended up going in the opposite direction. So even in the winter around that time, there was a little bit of sunlight left and he was heading right into it, which meant he was heading west and we needed to head east. And I said to him, I said, we're going the wrong way. And he sped up and he drove even further. There's no lights, there's road markers, there's just forests and trees. It's getting more and more desolate and deserted and darker. And so he turned the radio up really loud. And so I turned it down. I said, listen, I said, we have to concentrate. And that was when he hit me for the first time with the back of his hand, which was enormous, like a bear paw. And my lips split and the blood ran down my shirt. I was completely stunned. But I said to myself, I said, don't say a word. Don't say a word. There's still hope that we can get the car heading in the right direction. I can turn him around, turn the car around, turn the situation around. That wasn't meant to be. We were stopped by a police officer because of his erratic driving. And he looked at me and I said, we need help. We need to get home. And he probably didn't do what he should have done. He did give us directions, and we said, okay. And I looked at his car, the little side view mirror, and he had turned around and left, assuming we were going to do what he told us to do. But again, that didn't happen. Tom went further west, more deserted, and pulled down a cul-de-sac road, thinking he was going to kill me there. But what happened was the first tiny miracle. They were construction guys working on a brand new cul-de-sac A-frame house on Christmas Eve, which is unheard of. We all know construction guys, they like their time with their family. And these guys were on the roof with floodlights. So that was the first thing that kind of saved my life. He pulled out and went around a barricade. The road was closed on both ends. And that was where he said he was going to kill me and leave me in the ravine. He ran around the front of my car, and I could see his jeans, the headlights on his jeans as he came around. And I remembered a dream I had had 2 nights before. It wasn't a dream, it was a message. The message said, lock the door. At the time, I'm in my apartment, and I woke up, I said, my front door is locked. I said, I remember locking the door. This doesn't apply. They were talking to me about locking the car door. I had not had the car that long. It was an older car. I wasn't familiar, and I was so nervous. I was trying to get the lock, trying to fit the lock, trying to find it. I couldn't do it, and he ripped the door almost off the hinges. He was on lithium and had drank a bottle of whiskey I had in the back as a Christmas present. So between the combination of being off his medication and on this liquor, he had like a superhuman strength. So he knelt on me, and he twisted my trachea. I could actually hear it, and began to beat me to death. And after each blow, I saw a little white light. And I said to myself, I said, keep opening your eyes after every blow. I said, as long as you open your eyes, you're still alive. And as long as you see that light, you're still alive. He pulled out half the hair on my head and rearranged my teeth and said he was going to kill me and leave me in the ravine. And at that point, I had 2 thoughts. I said, 1, I'll never see my mother again. And 2, nothing mattered. I was very into my career. I wanted to be the best. I was a translator in New York City, Japanese. I had lived in Japan, and that was my goal. And I said, being the best at anything, it doesn't really truly matter. And that was when the 2 white lights came out of the darkness. And these boys coming from an AA meeting wanted to see the best stars that night. And they thought maybe they could see the Star of Bethlehem, the North Star. And they went around the barricade in the opposite direction. And the lights startled him just enough for him to back off. And that was my opportunity to run. And I said to myself, I'd rather die and get hit by that car than not be found forever. I ended up working at a police station, and we had gotten a notice that there were a pile of bones of a girl found in the woods. And at the time that I read that, I said, that would have been me. I would have remained unidentified for years until they built condominiums down there 30, 40 years later. So I said, let me at least get hit by the car. I said, I'll be a body in the road. They'll identify me somehow. I said, at least my parents will know where I was. They didn't know who I was with. They didn't know where I was. I didn't even know this area myself. So the car went around me. I stood there with my hands over my head, and they went around me. And in the darkness, the red taillights got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I said, I might as well make a run for it. So I ran after the car. And as I'm running after the car, he ran after me. And finally, the lights got brighter. And I said, oh, somebody stepped on the brakes. They stepped on the brakes. And I ran up to the passenger window, and I banged on it. I said, let me in, let me in, let me in. And the boy opened the door. I jumped on his lap, and he kept the door open. He was waiting for this other person. They thought maybe we had car trouble. And I said, he's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me. Go, 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 go. So the driver took off with the door open. We closed it. And I said to myself, great. I said, now I'm in more trouble. I said, now there's 2 guys. They're in leather jackets. They have spikes everywhere. There was like a pile of nails or something in between the car seats. I just said to myself, look at the handle and pull it, jump out of the moving car and run into the fields and be done with this. Just as I was about to do that, I saw the cross hanging from the rearview mirror, and it seemed to have a light all of its own. And I calmed down, and the driver said, "When are you going to tell her?" And I said, "Tell me what?" And they said, "We're earth angels. We've done this before. And because we've done it for you, you're going to go ahead and do it for somebody else." 10 years later, a teacher in my school ended up having a heart attack, and I saved her life. 3 surrounding towns were called, the AED. She said she was watching me work on her body as she was above the school building. She was back at work a few weeks later, not a scratch, nothing wrong.
Feels.
So I turned the favor. Quite the favor. So at that point, I had been out of my body and saw myself on the side of the road. This was where the boys were talking to me. It was almost a dual perception. And I could see my arm over my head. I was clearly dead, and he had kicked me. And I said to the boys, I said, "I'm not supposed to be here right now." I said, "I'm supposed to be dead."
So
said,
wait a
"Well,
minute, I'm confused. So you jump in the car and then you end up out of the car, they're working on you?
oh, no, nobody
I'm
worked
sorry.
on me. Yeah, nobody
Oh,
worked. Yeah, I jumped in the car and I was just talking to the boys.
uh-huh.
And that's when they said they were earth angels, that I would go on to do the same to help somebody. And they said, "We have to get you to the hospital." And I said, I can't go to the hospital." He said he was going to kill my whole family. And I said, "He knows where I live. He knows where I live from the beach." I said, "He knows where I live." And I said, "I have to get home." So the boy said, one of the passenger boys said, "I need to get home. It's Christmas Eve. My mom wants me home. Why don't you call from there?" That was the first stop we made. I called home. My mother was not home. And I called John and I said, "Tom just tried to kill me." I said, "Can you get to my house to make sure my mother's not home in case I'm sorry, in case he gets there before I do?" So he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll be at your mom's house." And I went with the other boy to his house, and I ended up seeing a scene from my future. His dad was on the couch in front of a fireplace, and his mom was in the kitchen making cookies. Years later, that would be my husband on the couch, and I would be the one making cookies. So he drove me all the way home, and my mother still wasn't home. So I said to John, "I don't want to be here in case he's on his way." And we went to John's house. My mother called me and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I was just killed almost by Tom." And she said, "The Fort Dix police just called. They apprehended him, and they want you to go back and make a statement." So I did. I went back, and the night that was supposed to be a 2 or 3 hour Christmas Eve day, I didn't get home until 4 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day. And my family, being my family, never took me to the hospital, never took me to the doctors.
The police didn't, when you made the statement, suggest that?
They did suggest it. I said I would go when I got home. There's a hospital right near my house at
I
home.
see.
Yeah, never taken. And when I did go a few months later for an unrelated issue, I was still missing half the hair on my head. My teeth were rearranged, and I still had contusions on my head. And the doctor said, "Why didn't you come?" I said, "I didn't know. I didn't know how to take care of myself then, and nobody else was taking care of me either. I knew how to achieve, and I knew how to study and be good in the corporate world, but my self-care would come later on." And I ended up taking him to court on my own. My mother wouldn't pay for a lawyer. I didn't have the money for a lawyer. So I stood up and I represented myself. And I said to myself, I said, "I lived." I said, "But what about the next person? What about her? What if there's no car for her that comes to save her life?" And the judge revealed I was his third assault. The first 2 were men. And he was put away for aggravated assault and battery. And that was the last I heard from him.
How long did he get, you know?
I'm sorry.
How much time did they give him for aggravated assault and battery?
He only got 6 months,
Oh,
which I do believe, had I had a lawyer, he probably would have been up for attempted murder. And I do read these cases a lot, and I know there's a lot of variation as far as the sentencing goes for these kinds of cases. But I wanted it on record in case it ever happened again. That was my goal.
let me flip you. It's hard to talk to you. What made you feel that you didn't know how to take care of yourself? I understand that feeling for myself, but so I'm wondering what you had went through. And I kind of feel like maybe your mom not wanting you to be there till a certain time. Was the home life not good that made you feel you didn't know how to take care of you, or you weren't important enough to go to the hospital, or nobody took care of you?
All of that, all of that. Yes, nowadays everybody uses the term narcissism. Years ago, I didn't know what it was. But apparently something happened in my mother's childhood that she never healed from. And she made my older siblings the golden children, and I was the garbage can. And it was just the extreme. Whereas if you're healed, you can kind of go right down the middle, which is the goal. You want the balance. There was no balance in my home. So I ended up taking it out on myself, but it also gave me the ability to heal myself. I wasn't putting it on anybody else. I didn't need anybody else to make me feel better. I needed to do the inside work, and I did. And whenever I was not sure of myself or my worth, I would say, well, somebody made these two boys think I was worthy enough, or arranged circumstances to the point where I was saved enough to go on. Like, I'm supposed to be here when I didn't think I was supposed to be here. Sometimes I didn't want to be here. I reminded myself that I am supposed to be here, and we're all supposed to be here if we're here. And that's the saving grace that kept me going through everything.
Man. You know, like, I'm just feeling so much for you right now that, I mean, I know exactly why you didn't know how to take care of yourself, and I'm just like, what can we do? But, my thing always comes back, and, what can we do for all these girls it's going to happen to, or boys that, and it's not just, assaults, it's not just rapes or child abuse, or there's a lot of other situations people find themselves in legally, where they legally need to defend themselves, and they can't because of their childhood that told them they were garbage.
Exactly.
They have no support system, and they have no belief that anybody will believe them or care about them or take care of them, or
exactly.
I'm looking for answers. So
exactly.
there isn't any.
There aren't any. There aren't any. Yeah, I always see the gadgets for women to protect themselves while they're jogging and running, and that's all great. How about if we shifted it to the men, maybe getting a hold of them as young boys? It's always they're assuming, we're under the assumption that we're going to be hurt. So as long as we're going to be hurt, let's get a whistle, let's get the pepper spray. How about if we shifted it and just said, what if we got a hold of the young boys and said, hey, if you have anger issues at a female, you can't take it out on strangers that you don't know. Are there any other ways we can mitigate this? Can we grab them earlier rather than just assume it's going to happen? Just assume it's going to happen. It's not the emphasis needs to shift. If we've been focusing on female safety and looking behind and looking in front,
You're right.
let's try the other segment of the population, the male segment, who have trouble verbalizing. They're not as apt to go perhaps for support or for groups and therapy. Is there a way we can engage them in another way to get out their frustration, to target perhaps their detrimental home life so they don't take it out on strangers? Can we get them building, running, competing, artists? Are there any other ways we can reach this population rather than to assume it's just going to happen?
And the police dropped the ball.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
By not saying you're going for medical treatment, if nothing else, for evidence, and arresting the guy sooner. You had to go 3 months later and file. Why didn't they say go after him? You knew who he was, you knew where he had been. You had to do this later.
Right.
And then the charges wasn't attempted murder, it was assault and battery and 6 months. And
right. And you can see why females are reluctant to go forward. They put their best efforts and they get a watered down result. But the fact is to go forward anyway. Go forward anyway. But the first police officer should have separated us, taken him. He was obviously under the influence of alcohol and driving, and then let me go home in a different vehicle somehow, some way. That would have been the best solution early on. That would have been the best.
It's almost like, I mean, I know there's good outcomes and hopefully times have changed since then. But we can't assume that either, because I know current cases is completely just the
Correct.
same as 50 years
Correct.
ago.
Correct.
So,
Right.
there's just, I mean, like, where was your victim advocate? Where was so many things? I mean, yeah, first of all, usually we would think that most people have mothers, and some of
Correct.
us don't, that don't think we're garbage, that think that I'm gonna get justice for my daughter. My daughter is going to the hospital. My daughter is, you are going to press charge. We all don't have those parents. And we all don't have that voice for ourselves, especially when we're sitting there traumatized.
Right.
Injured.
I was so injured. I had such headaches. I had a concussion. My teeth were rearranged. My hair was missing. And I went to work. I said, Mom, I want to take off. She said, no, go to work. So I commuted into New York City. And I had to tell the guys in my office I was in a car accident, because they were horrified when I walked through the door, horrified at my appearance. But you learn to ignore your basic needs when you're not taught. But you can learn. You can learn to take care of yourself through other courageous women before me who have overcome and survived. And that's what I've done.
When you said to them you were in a car accident, was it because you felt ashamed? You didn't want to go through the story?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right. It was an easy answer. Easy answer.
Because we lived in a world where when people did know things, they didn't care.
Correct.
And it hurt more than just let sleeping dog lie.
That's exactly correct. That was a quick, easy answer. Didn't have to explain why I was in the car, or how I didn't really know him, because the blame gets put on the girl.
Yeah.
So that also needs to change.
Well, I'm glad you weren't raped.
Me too. I actually was raped of my virginity at 14. And I also couldn't tell home. And I was hoping they would notice something about me differently, because I was terribly withdrawn. And they didn't. My mother didn't. And I said to myself then, I'm not going to let this affect me. And I did the same thing when I was beat up as well. I said, I'm not going to let this change my perception of myself. I'm going to continue forward. Athletics saved me. The ocean saved me. Research saved me. A lot of reading, a lot of studying. I went to the library. I read every book I could on everything. I wanted to figure out what was wrong with my family, how to fix myself, and how to go forward in the best way. And I've actually done that. Proud of myself.
Now, I think you said something about you worked with the police department later, and what was that?
I ended up working with the police department. I was a dispatcher for emergencies, and I had a lady come to me who was suicidal, and I talked her out of it and brought her into the department, and they took it from there. And I was also going to nursing school at night, so I became a nurse. And I've also helped people in those terrible traumatic situations. And sometimes I would tell them my story and give them a little bit of hope. And I would say, look where I am right now. You can do it too. You can go forward. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. Having a bad family doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can use it to help others. That's where the power is. You have to take it and use it.
How did things end up with your mom? Your relationship getting better as she passed on?
She was diagnosed with cancer. I was the one who took care of her with complete love, as if she was a total stranger. I said, let me do this for her. Years later, she visited me, sat on the end of my bed, and apologized for everything she had been and done.
You're lucky. I didn't get that. So you're lucky. No, I didn't.
Oh, you had the similar childhood?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Similar. Yeah. Mother. But she passed away just this past April, the day after her birthday. And I saw her the day before her birthday, just as mean and horrible to me and my disabled sister as ever. She never, no apologies, nothing. I mean, just horrible lies and mean and insults, and yeah, never changed. So I'm glad you got that.
right to the end. That's, yeah.
I wanted that. I did. I wanted it. I wanted to be able to say, she come to Jesus moment, you know?
Right, exactly.
Never happened.
But it took about 14 years on the other side. So I think she was in school learning how to heal and even learning how to apologize. So I think it might have taken her that length of time to be able to actually sincerely know the damage she did and be able to come and apologize. It takes a lot of strength to apologize. So
Are
there
you,
was quite a gap between her death and that visit.
oh, she didn't
There was.
apologize on earth. This was 14 years later after she died.
Correct.
Didn't get that. Didn't get it. Okay. Well, maybe there's hope for me then, right?
You never know.
I'll be waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to be able to say I forgive you, but if they don't ask.
Right.
No.
Right. No, she was mean until the end on Earth as well. Same.
Okay. So we are in the same situation, sadly,
And
then.
she even left me out of the will. So even after death, she was still sticking it to me.
Yeah. I wasn't in my mom's will either. I don't know if she had anything left to will, but yeah.
Exactly same. They're so similar sometimes. But you deserve a lot of credit for where you are and how you've handled everything.
Well, you do. Let's tell the audience what you're doing now. It's pretty amazing what you're doing.
I'm a school nurse. I work in a high crime, low test score area. The position was vacant for 3 years. Nobody wanted it. I questioned broken into several times. However, I love the children. I let them listen to the stethoscope. I'm a school nurse. And I let them take my blood pressure. I try and get them dreaming outside of their situation of what they can become. And I say to them all the time, you have to do good in school so you can come back and work with me. So that's what I'm doing. I love what I do. They have me in 4 different schools from ages 3 up to 21, the high school and 3 grammar schools and a middle school. So it's very, very fun and satisfying. I'm so glad I'm there and they're happy to have me, which is even better.
That's awesome that you became an earth angel. Now, what do you think about the men saying that? I mean, these were human men, right? I mean, were they like, this is what they call themselves, like maybe they're a motorcycle gang, or what do you make of that, them saying earth angels?
You know, I believe in angels. I really do. So I never quite heard the term earth angels, but I was
Uh,
getting because they obviously were on earth, that they were fulfilling some kind of a mission. It didn't frighten me. I welcomed it. I'm very open to signs, synchronicities. And so when they personified that, I was like, okay, I can deal with that. And they obviously came to my rescue. So that kind of fit the scenario as well. And their getup was a little crazy, but that didn't bother me until I thought maybe I was in danger. But when they said you're going to go on to do the same, I thought, okay, well, they're not going to hurt me. They obviously want me to continue some good works on Earth. So I thought, okay, let's see if that happens. And 10 years later, it did. And I said, oh man, I remember they said this was going to happen. And it did. So a lot of synchronicities, a little bit of a thread throughout my life, which I rely on. Since I don't have family, I do rely on strangers for the most part. I always have. And they've always been very kind. And if they weren't kind, I learned some kind of a good lesson. Either stand up for myself, speak up, be patient, pull back, see what's bothering them. Don't take it personally. So I bring a lot to every situation that I'm in. And I always try to leave it a little better than when I found it. Hopefully.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could start a club for teenagers called Earth Angels to just do volunteer work,
That would be amazing.
to teach kids how to give to others?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can bring your gifts. It's not what you have, it's who you are. Bring that. Bring that. That's all you need to start. Bring your heart. Bring your willingness, bring your kindness. Those are very powerful. When I lived in Japan, they said it takes a lot of strength to be gentle. More strength to be gentle.
Ginger pan? What?
I lived in Kyoto for 2 years. So I learned how to think differently. And the mantra there is it takes a lot of strength to be gentle. So everybody thinks when they're loud, when they're tough, when they're yelling, that's not really strength. Strength is very, very quiet.
Yeah,
Strength is
true.
very quiet. So I would love that to be part of what we could teach the teenage girls. And to decipher the media messages of who they are and who they should be, to try and tone that down and remember who they wanted to be when they were little, before they were told what to wear, how to wear their hair. They're not good enough. They're too this, they're too that. Who were you when you were 3 or 4? What did you want to be? That's who they really are here to become and be. Society bombards girls mercilessly with messages of everything, and they're never good enough, no matter what the message is. So we can just remind them, what did you want to be when you were little? And don't lose that person. Don't lose that spark. That's who you are. And that's untouchable. Don't let anybody touch that.
And 13, 14 is such a beautiful age. You know,
Truly.
if you can get kids at that age and show them, volunteer a nursing home, a hospital, make sure they're safe, or a home, homeless shelter, as long as they're supervised.
Sure.
Bagging up food to give to elderly, something.
Absolutely.
Setting them up for babysitting jobs, as long as they're, it's safe.
Correct.
All these things they could be doing to gain confidence and career skills and a sense of community
Correct.
and responsibility. Because I did those things at that age. I mean, I was volunteering at the nursing home. I was a little candy striper. I was babysitting. I was sewing, making these dogs that they were selling for charity. And I just couldn't do enough. And I loved that time. And we lived at Beverly. I was going to Fort Fry Junior High at the time. And all those opportunities was there. I lived right beside a public library. And we lived beside a church. I was involved in church. And then we moved. And I had none of those things.
Oh,
All I had was this 18-year-old boy trying to take my virginity, and my stepdad being mean, and my brothers being mean, and my parents fighting, my ex, they were divorced, it was just, it took everything good away. And so I just got lost in all that
oh,
hate. And I
so
had no, the thing that saved me was JTPA is what they called it. I don't remember what the initials stood for, but as poor kids, they gave them jobs in the summer. You got minimum wage. And so I worked in the summers cleaning the school. And so I got minimum wage. And so at the end of the summer, I had money to buy my school clothes. And I did that 2 summers, and that was great. But then the rest of the year, it's just all this chaos. And
no escape. There's no escape.
yeah.
You know what, too, for girls? We need to give them an electric guitar and drums. Girls have a lot of power in them that is watered down on purpose because our power and strength scares people. So they try and get that out of them at an early age. But I've seen some videos of these girls on electric guitars and on drum sets. Phenomenal, really phenomenal. So the musical side of girls should come out, the powerful side of them.
It wouldn't help me. I never understood notes.
Oh,
And to this day, I don't get it. It's like foreign language. It's just totally, it scares me for some reason. I got scared of it in elementary. They're trying to teach us notes and stuff. And I was so scared of it. I said, I don't understand. Everything's so stupid. I don't get it. Because it takes short-term memory. And I don't have that. And I didn't realize I have a disability with short-term memory.
That's
so I couldn't get anything like spelling bees. If I'm sitting there writing, I could spell it, but stand up and I can't see it. I let me sit down and write it, and then I can see and remember what the last word and so I went undiagnosed, they didn't have special ed. I've probably been in special ed for something, but
it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
Stupid, like I always thought, and everybody kept reinforcing, you're stupid, you're stupid. And I didn't like I just had short-term memory problem.
Because of the environment you were in.
I was knocked out cold. I was hit by a car when I was little. I was drowned when I was little, and then I was beat up by my family and knocked out cold. And I don't think that helped my brain.
Absolutely not.
I told my husband this morning, I was like, I just realized my mom that was always telling me my whole life how stupid I am. I think she caused this short-term memory problem.
The environment is very powerful. Yeah. Positively or negatively. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like make a kid stupid and then put him down for being stupid.
Gosh, no, it's not you at all.
Like I have to sit here and I scribble, I make notes like while my guests are talking, because that's the only way I can hold it in and focus.
Right.
And I throw it away when I'm done. Like I got it, but it's just like I have to, okay.
I just read somewhere that that's a strength. When we know how to work with ourselves, that's a strength.
Head work?
Yeah, how to work with ourselves and our strengths and weaknesses. That's actually something to be commended. You figured a way through.
Yeah, well, I figured a way when I went to college. I went to college 10 years after high school. And I thought, oh, I was so dumb in school. Everybody says, like, why you not everybody? My mother says, you're not going to do good in college. And I really wanted to go because I wanted to work with abused kids. And so I thought, okay, so I'm going to write down every single thing they say. And I did. I sat down and I wrote every single, and then I started learning. You don't have to write down everything. Learn what's important. When you take
Exactly.
notes. And I was realizing I had to study like maybe 5 times more than other people, because the other people would then say, well, I just look over my notes before I go in, and like, oh my God, I was like lock myself in a room for hours and read over and read over. But then I was getting 4.0 because I was
Oh,
over studying, because I was so convinced I was so dumb that I won't get it, that I was over. So I ended up like
oh
top of my class.
gosh, congratulations. That's
So, and that
awesome.
was just my first 2 year, like, technical school, then went to university, and I was like struggling because you get in this big room with all these people and I couldn't focus. I'm picking up on everybody's, like I wasn't going through school. I was picking on everybody else's emotions. Here we go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, like, and we come with, our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's our job. Nobody else's. Right.
Absolutely. Like they say, it's an inside job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I do the same thing with the notes. Yeah, the
Yeah.
environment was not conducive to quiet or concentration. So it was always hyper vigilant. So that's very useful at being street smart, but it's not always useful in a controlled environment like a university. So we do what we need to do, and we
Yeah.
get through it. We make it
I
work.
have to even tell my husband sometimes, slow down. My brain don't grab that fast.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. Yeah, I have a lot of post-it notes around the house from the not only the environment, from the injuries as well. So we do what we need to do. That's okay. That's okay.
So sounds like your near death experience was the out of body, when you looked down and seen, what was it again?
It was. Yes. Yeah.
What on the
Yeah,
ground?
I was on the side of the road and I had a red jacket on that I had borrowed, and my hand was over my head and the other arm was down this way. And I was clearly dead. And he kicked me to make sure I was dead. And being in that space, I know, being in that space of looking at my body, you realize you're not your body, you're something else. And
Mhm.
where that something else is and who that is perfectly intact. There's a peace, your observations are keen. There's no negativity, yet everything you see is perfectly aligned. And I said, "Wow, there I am." I said, "I'm not supposed to be here, back alive." I was alive, even though I was separated. Um, so it was one of the best feelings because I know that people survive their physical bodies. That's They say it's just a vehicle, and it truly, truly is. We're an essence, and that essence is always safe and intact. And the other thing I like to always bring out, I felt no pain, and I was being hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. And I know people wonder, oh, is my loved one in pain before they die? Were they in agony? And I just think you're protected. You're protected. I don't remember the pain. I didn't feel the pain. It wasn't about the pain. So I
We
hope
are
that makes
protected.
somebody feel better.
We are taken out of there and we don't have to feel it.
Exactly. Exactly.
My drowning was out of body like that, looking down and
Oh,
everything was going on at 5 years
oh,
old.
oh,
And then my second NDE, it was different. It was through the tunnel, way up in space in the bright light with God and Jesus and all this, begging now I could take care of my kid. I was 25 years old then. So it was totally different scenario between the
oh,
two, 20 years
oh,
apart. But yes,
beautiful.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who may pass away before her surgery. She's waiting on her surgery.
Yeah.
And her condition's bad that she could go before then. And she's really scared, of course. And it's strange because every time I seen her, she's like, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Like she's ready to die. But now she's scared.
Oh,
And I just walked in a room and she's like, I'm scared. And I'm like, okay, let's talk. And I said, well, you know what I do on my podcast, right? And your death experiences. And she says, well, I've had one of those. I said, you did? And she said, yeah. She says, about a year ago, she woke up one night and her mom was standing beside her bed. And there was a conversation, I don't remember what she said, but mom was standing there and she says, I says, because we don't die.
Exactly.
And so I don't know if she was sick at that point, what made her have that, or if it was just a gift. But she
Right.
says, I had one of those because I saw my mom.
That's
So,
wonderful.
but she's only my age. So, she has a family, her kids and grandkids. She's not ready to go.
Oh, oh my goodness.
But yeah, we know we have such an advantage because we know when we have been out of our body and looked down and seen everything else, it's just like that body is just a car. It's just like getting out of a car. You're not your car.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
it's like that car is totaled, is not drivable. You're not going to get back in it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely
And you're
not.
just in this another environment. Like, what do you know about that?
Exactly.
But like I say, but at 25 though, I was like kicking and fighting. No, I got to go back because I had 3 little boys. And I was scared to death. My mother would have to raise them.
No, no,
And I was
no,
like, I cannot stay here.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And it isn't funny. It's funny how we can look back now and think if that didn't happen, like if your situation didn't happen, would you been there for that suicidal person or that teacher or all the, what you do now? I'm sure the compassion and the insight and the patience you have with kids and people, because I can tell, I knew it before I even talked to you because the way you responded the other day on the time on the thing of our show the other day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could tell the way you responded. It's like, wow, she wasn't just avoiding me. She really has this, really busy life. And so I felt bad because I assumed, oh, she just don't want to do with me. Okay, fine. But that
Oh,
wasn't the
no,
case at
no,
all. Now
not at all.
I hear you talk and I think you're an earth angel.
Oh my gosh, so sweet. I hope
I
I
think
can
you
live
are.
up to that.
I
And a
think
lot of
you
people
are.
think we've had an easy life, people like myself, and it's actually the exact opposite. I just didn't want to repeat any of the hurt that was done to me. So that's also how I transformed what was done to me. I said, I'm not passing any of that on to anybody ever. I don't care what they do to me. It was so painful, as you know, just too painful. So I go out of my way. But I've had some people be a little, they can't figure me out, and that's okay. I understand that. That's okay. You know, you know, life will,
Can't figure you out. Like, why aren't you getting upset? Why are you putting up with things?
yeah. Why aren't I confrontational back when they've been confrontational with me? And I always say the confrontation, the anger is grief. So if they're angry, they're actually grieving something that they haven't grieved all the way. So I understand that. And I just keep going forward with compassion. It's really not about me.
I used to be that way.
Oh,
And
really?
then one day I got angry
Okay, that's okay
and
too.
I felt like it was my fault that I laid there and took so much stuff. I never fought back. I woke up one day, it's like this all happened because I let them. I didn't speak up. I didn't fight back. And so I feel like I got to start fighting back. And so I went through this phase where I'm like very triggered.
Right, and of course, that's
Like,
okay.
oh, there it is. They're trying to get me, there it is. They're trying to get me. There it is. And then later I could read back what they said and like, oh, wow, I really want to overkill here. They didn't mean it that way. I can see it now. But at the time I thought, how dare you? They're coming at me. They're coming at me. And I felt like I was like batting. And I'm like, I don't have to be fighting.
And that's almost a step in the process. It's almost a requirement so you can see where that doesn't work and it doesn't solve anything. So that's okay to try that. Doesn't work, pull back. Let's try something else.
Yeah. What I advice I give people now is I tell them, keep that bitch in your back pocket. You need to find her because you
That's it.
may need her when
Exactly.
something serious does happen. So find her and use her for a while, but then put her in your back pocket and only bring her out when
That's
necessary.
awesome. That is so true. That is so true. You need that fight to survive. Absolutely. The surviving part is one step, and then the living part is the next step. So you're absolutely right.
Because I remember when after I had 20 years old, I gave birth my second son and C-section, and I had only been out of the hospital a week. And my ex-husband, his family ganged up, and one of them started beating on me. And one of them said, "My God, you're going to kill her," went to pull her off. Because I just laid her on the ground. I didn't touch her. I was walking away from her. I was like, "I'm going to fight you. I don't fight anybody, you know? And I don't want to fight you." And she grabbed me. I had a long braid, and she threw me,
Oh,
grabbed it, and threw me down. And she just started beating on me. And so the other sister-in-law was, "My God, you're going to kill her." Went to pull her off. And the woman beating on me, her husband, my husband's brother, said, "Let him fight it out." And I'm like, "Fight it out." And all I
no.
was doing is I wasn't angry. I was laying there thinking, psychoanalyzing this. Like, why are they so mad? I don't understand why I'm just, I wonder if she's this or that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I could like visioned in the future, kind of like you did when you kind of seen the
Right.
future. All of a sudden I got this visual of me trying to take care of my kids as paraplegic in a wheelchair.
Oh, right.
And I thought, I'm going to be a paraplegic trying to take care of my kids. And so I thought, stop moving. She'll think she killed me.
Right.
So I
Oh,
stopped moving. I was trying to get up. So I stopped moving. I went limp because I thought if I don't, she's going to keep on. So I went limp and she got off. And I laid there a second. I thought, let her think she killed me for a second. And then I got up and I stood up and I looked right in her face. And I said, "That proves to me what kind of woman you are. I'll see your ass in court."
absolutely correct.
And I walked
Absolutely.
away with my head held high. And we got up to my mother and father-in-law's house, walked in, and my baby was there, my toddler, because I just had a newborn. They were there and my toddler was she's a year and a half old. He saw me and I didn't know what I looked like, I didn't know. And he just started screaming and shaking, and they grabbed him up and took me to the room so he couldn't see me because I was a bloody mess. I
You're
had
so
to go to the
welcome.
hospital. I was a mess.
Oh my goodness.
And like you, like half your hair's pulled out and not my
Yeah,
teeth, and she
right.
bit my face. She growled like a dog when she pulled my braid out and growled and bit my face. But so when I got home, I started after the hospital, over the police department, and they rushed out to go arrest her. There's like, "Who was he?" I was like, "It wasn't a man, it was a woman." "Well, must have been a big woman." I said, "Same size as me." And they arrested her. And they sent me to the hospital. And then when I was driving home, I see in double vision. I thought cars was passing,
Oh,
just one car and the other lane. I thought they was passing double, and I had to have somebody else drive. And so I got home and I started combing my hair and put it in the toilet, and it heaved up out of that's how much hair. Then I got angry. Then I got mad. Then I wanted to hurt her. And I thought, why couldn't I get angry before?
exactly. Wow.
It's like we need anger sometimes. Like we
Absolutely.
need to fight and get people off of us and say, "You're not doing this to me." And so it's a balance, isn't it?
Yes. Anger is a very powerful emotion. Very, very powerful when used the right way and for the right
Right
reason.
way to protect yourself and others. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'm sorry, I just get really
Oh,
into
no, my
it, I
pleasure.
guess. And
Oh,
is there
goodness.
anything else we didn't get to cover that you wanted to add? Or
Not a thing. Not a thing.
no, you haven't wrote a book, and
I'm in the process.
are you good?
I'm in the process. So,
Let me know when you get it finished. If you like, you can come back on, and so we can have a link so people know about your book.
oh, that would be awesome. I will do that.
Okay. Okay. I'd love to read it.
Oh, definitely. Oh, thank you so, so much.
Uh-huh. All right. So you have a good day.
Okay, thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.